One morning, you wake up and find his food still in the bowl. You search the house, but you can't find him. It feels strange because he isn't the type to run away. Until finally, you see that your dog is isolating himself, hiding under the bed so you won't see him, avoiding eye contact. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? What's happening to him? Until an even more terrifying question arises. Does my dog know what's happening to him? Is he afraid? Is he in pain? Did I do enough? For a long time, it's been believed that when dogs are about to die, they tend to wander off or enter a stage of anxiety. But that's not exactly the case. The truth is, we know very little about our pets. This story is going to be a bit different because we're talking about something deeper, the final days of our beloved companions. But I want you to understand that this isn't dark or sad. Rather, from a psychological perspective, it's actually quite comforting. Your dog doesn't know he's dying, but he knows that something important, something much more significant, is going to happen to him. Answering the question, do our dogs actually know they are going to cross the rainbow bridge? The answer isn't as simple as yes or no. In 2021, philosopher Susanna Mongso published a study explaining that among many species, dogs possess a minimal concept of death. However, having a concept of death is difficult. It's not the same as having a perception of it, let alone one's own. Humans are the only species that think deeply about what happens after we cease to exist. Other species lack that specific reasoning. What they do instead is more immediate. They feel that their bodies no longer respond the way they used to. They feel that walks are harder, that their appetite has changed, that the energy they once had is fading. But I think the most interesting part of the case is this: they can smell it. Thanks to their 300 million olfactory receptors, their sense of smell is nothing short of miraculous. There's a common legend about how they can smell cancer, a legend that is entirely true. A 2024 study showed that dogs can detect cancer in the saliva of other dogs with 90% sensitivity. They are constantly analyzing their own chemical signature, detecting when something is failing. When that happens, they either start to distance themselves, hiding in corners, or they develop an incredibly strong attachment to you. Most people interpret the former as sadness and the latter as love. But science has an answer that is even more moving. Benjamin Hart demonstrated that isolation and social withdrawal are not signs of giving up. They are evolutionary traits. They enter a state of mental and physical conservation to focus all their energy on fighting the illness. In ancient times, sick or elderly animals would move away from the pack to draw away predators and avoid being a burden. It's a strange, silent way of saying, "You are one of my own." It stems from a biological need to protect. When a dog is afraid, he runs to his protector. But when he knows the end is near, he moves away to look out for you. The attachment itself, that isn't desperation. That is trust. We've all had similar experiences with a dog we've owned. Or if not, it's something that eventually happens. He visits every family member, one by one, on his last day. He walks to his favorite spot in the yard that he hadn't visited in months. Or after days of barely moving, he suddenly gets up, eats dinner, wags his tail, and seems completely normal for an hour. And then he's gone. This is known as the last rally. It's a pattern that can look different every time, but it begins with a sudden burst of energy. This isn't just a random occurrence. In 2023, a group of researchers catalogued 114 of these accounts from owners and veterinarians to find answers. One veterinarian even noted that it wasn't uncommon to be called to put a dog down, only to be greeted at the door by an animal barking and jumping, full of life. A team led by Dr. Jimo Borjigan at the University of Michigan discovered that when the brain loses oxygen during cardiac arrest, it doesn't simply shut off. Instead, it produces a surge of organized gamma wave activity in the posterior cortex, They found that in humans, this is a final burst of neural coherence as the brain tries one last time to restore balance. Who's to say the same thing doesn't happen to dogs? It might be something in nature. It might be biological. The point is that dogs use their last ounce of energy to eat what they want, to look at your face one more time, and to reaffirm their bond. Both things can be true at the same time. The explanation can be science, and the meaning can be real. This is the hardest moment, the one anyone would fear. But it doesn't have to be bad, and it doesn't have to be traumatic. If you're carrying guilt over a situation like this, keep listening. Some people make the decision to choose euthanasia for their pet. This is not a bad thing. In fact, when there are no other options left, it might be the kindest act of love you can offer. A single dose essentially flips a switch, turning off the brain and the system, specifically consciousness. The animal loses brain activity about 52 seconds after the injection, falling into a deep sleep where they don't actually feel the moment they lose consciousness. This was proven in 2015 by a team at UC Davis led by Monica Ailman. And yes, it's known that following those minutes, there may be movements, reactions, or gasps that seem like they are suffering. But that isn't the case. It is merely a muscular reaction. They are already gone. They aren't suffering. We know the heart can continue to beat for up to 16 minutes afterward. But you have nothing to worry about. They passed in the most peaceful way possible. The process isn't traumatic during or before the injection either. For them, things work differently. They don't perceive that something good or bad is being done to them. At the Free University in Berlin, researchers found that stress markers remained low at all times, whether the owner was present or not. The concept of euthanasia simply has no meaning to them. But here is what did matter. And this is the part we want you to remember. fMRI research showed that the caudate nucleus activates more strongly at the scent of a familiar owner than at any other stimulus. Not food, not other dogs. You. The scent alone is enough. What this means is that in those final seconds of consciousness, if you are there, your scent, your voice, and your hand on their fur are registered in the part of your dog's brain associated with safety and reward. You are the last good thing they experience, not the pain, not the fear. You. The science on this is not ambiguous. Your presence is the greatest gift you can give them. And if that brings you any comfort, hold on to it. Because it's real. And then comes the hardest part. Grief. Anyone who has ever had a pet knows this is more than just a passing feeling. It's something that demands respect. For many people, the loss of a pet can be incredibly distressing. For some, it is exactly like losing a human loved one. Grief and the reaction to it are different for everyone. But it isn't an isolated case. Nor is it merely subjective. In 2016, the journal PLOS ONE published an article from Maynooth University in Ireland, led by Philip Hyland, where he evaluated 975 people. Using clinical techniques for prolonged grief disorder, the results were striking. 7.5% met all the diagnostic criteria, while a national survey by the RSPCA found that 75% of pet owners begin grieving before the animal even passes away. They call this anticipatory grief. Furthermore, less than 7% felt that the people around them took their pain seriously. More than half hid how they were truly feeling. Psychologists call this disenfranchised grief. The pain that society tells you isn't valid, but your brain doesn't care what society says. Researchers from Harvard and Massachusetts General Hospital scanned the brains of mothers looking at photos of their own children and their own dogs. The core emotional network, the amygdala, the orbital frontal cortex, the dorsal pituitary gland activated in both cases. The attachment circuit doesn't check the species. It responds to the bond. As we've discussed, the relationship between a dog and their person is written in stress hormones. heart rate patterns, and even the gut bacteria they literally share from living together. When that bond is broken, grief isn't just sentimental. It's your nervous system registering the loss of a biological companion. And that deserves to be honored, not minimized. So, here's what the science actually says. A dog does not fear death. They do not lie in dread. They do not count the hours. What they carry, instead, is a neurological portrait of you. It activates every time they catch your scent or hear your voice. You are not just their owner. You are their favorite experience. That's not poetry. That's data. And the life you gave them, the walks, the couch time, the mornings, all of it built a welfare history. Not because every day was perfect, but because the balance was overwhelmingly positive. You gave them that. If you're in this moment now, or if it's coming, be there. Your presence matters, down to the neurochemistry. And if it already happened, know this. It is the biologically accurate, proportional cost of having been someone's entire world. If this story reached you at the right time, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you next time.